Welcome to Repatstories, where we explore the world through the stories of others. Today, we are going to be talking to Miss Alexia Blair, a certified speech language pathologist who is from Jamaica and went abroad to the US to study and is back in Jamaica doing some incredible work. So, hi Miss Alexia, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. I'm really happy to talk to you today. And as a reminder, our show takes the format of like home and then away and then back home again. So to start us off, could you tell us a little bit about your time growing up in Jamaica?
Sure. So I'm an only child, grew up with my mom and my dad. I went to Meadowbrook Preparatory School, then I went to St. Andrew High School for girls. And
it's a St. Andrew for me.
St. Andrew!
Oh my gosh, yes.
There's no other way to say it. And I did my entire high school time there. I was in the drumming ensemble, went to JCDC, and we won the first all-girl group to win JCDC. So, yeah.
I like to give high fives over here.
Yes.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still drumming today, but
yeah.
Less more in the back burner now. Anything else I did at high school? I graduated.
Yeah. That's huge. Let's just be real. A lot of people, we have trouble in school, okay? And we don't graduate. So let's just, let's
sing praises for myself.
Right. Love that. So, I mean, what was it like growing up in Jamaica? Growing up, did you enjoy being at home? Did you notice things that were like very pleasant or things that were very unpleasant? Like, what was it like feelings wise?
I think because I didn't have anything to compare it to, I was just fine. I think I was very sheltered as well. I went to school, came home. Went to school, came home, extra lessons. So there wasn't a whole lot of exploring the outside world. Really just close-knit family and with my friends, and wasn't even allowed to go to parties until I was in 6th form. So I think because of that, I didn't really have much comparison to say, okay, it was scary or anything.
Yeah. No, that's fair. But even within that, right, if you were sort of confined, sometimes some people just really feel that, and sometimes some people are just like okay with it. So I guess that you didn't feel like it was negative. You just kind of, it was life. It was fine. Yeah.
And I was also very shy too. So it's just like, I didn't know what I was missing out on, or if I was missing out on anything.
Yeah. No, that's fine. We're not calling you to question anything. Mom and Dad, we're not saying it was a bad childhood, okay? I'm just trying to establish like how you felt about going home, baseline. Yeah. Okay, so you come through high school. You're at the point now where you're choosing a career path and you're choosing where you want to start to pursue tertiary studies. And tell us more about that. Okay,
so that was a fun time. In high school, I wanted to be a doctor for some reason. And then after I finished CSEC, the exams, I realized I didn't want to do anything medicine related. So I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I realized I don't like to read, so maybe not law. And then I started doing these little online aptitude tests, and I kept getting pointed in the direction of either being a teacher or a speech therapist. And I'm like, I don't know what a speech therapist is, but that looked boring. I don't want to do that. So then I kept pushing it to the side, and then at that point in time, the King's Speech came out, and he was a speech therapist, and I was thinking, okay, this looks kind of cool, but I still wasn't convinced. And then you had Switch at Birth came out, and there was a speech therapist there, and I was like, why does this keep popping up?
Yeah.
But I'm still not convinced. But I ended up applying to school abroad, and I did half of my schooling for undecided and the other half for speech therapy. I also applied to UE locally. Okay. And
wait, let me pause you.
Pause me.
Let me pause you, because we're going through a lot of information here, and it's important, and I want to just call them out. So first of all, you said that you kind of were initially thinking of the traditional career path, right? Yeah. And I guess but it didn't quite feel right for whatever reasons, the reading or whatever it was, right? And I like that you paid attention to that. Some people do it anyway. But also now you're exploring things, and I think what happens a lot, especially in a developing society, sometimes you have people, because it's proven to work, they go for that, but you were actually willing to like stop and do these aptitude tests and like learn more about yourself, like to do the work to figure out what could it be, like if it's not these things. So pause. The King's Speech, for anyone who hasn't watched it, It's an incredible movie. It stars Colin Firth, who was the King of England. He played...
So I think his brother was king, but he abdicated, and then he got thrusted into being the king. He had no intentions of being the king, and he had a stammer or a stutter. So, of course, kings have to give speeches very regularly, and they found that because he had that stutter, he didn't want to do a lot of public speaking, but when he was cursing or cussing somebody out,
he was good.
So they got him a therapist, and they worked together, and then the movie comes to a close with this speech that he gives to the world, and it's smooth, and you see him utilizing all of his techniques that they saw him using in the movie, finally using them in practice. And I was just like, wow, I can help people, this looks cool. Really, it felt good.
Yeah, no, that's and I'm happy that if you hadn't watched that movie before, you should check it out. And then you also said there's Switched at Birth, which is a television show, a network television show from the US, which is also something you could check out. Okay, so those gave you this idea of what you could potentially be doing, right? And you thought, oh, this is interesting. So now you're looking at, okay, applying to schools abroad and applying to schools here.
Yes.
And in the school abroad process, you said that you applied for, so when you apply to school in the US, you can sort of declare what you want to do as a major, or you can be undecided.
Yes.
Right? And you said you did half undecided and half like in, what was the major?
Communication Science and Disorders.
Okay, cool. I didn't even know that major existed for undergrads. I'm being so honest.
I did not either.
That was an education for me because it's such serious work, and I feel like, how many people at 18 know?
Alexia.
And I love that. I love that. No, it speaks to the intention and, like figuring out what's for you, and I love that. So you also were applying, so you got to the point where you're telling us you were also applying locally to schools in Jamaica. So University of the West Indies was one, and you were saying.
Oh, so I applied to UWI for international relations and for physics. And I was hoping to get through to physics, and I feel like destiny intervened, and I didn't get my acceptance from UWI for physics until after I was already on my way to another school. Yeah. So I got through for communication science and disorders, and I got more funding for communication science and disorders, so that's where I was going. And then almost like a couple of days before I was leaving the country, I got the call from you, and they're like, we really want to know if you're going to accept our offer or not. And I was like, well, I might not, but I think it worked out for the best because it's just destiny. That's all I can say. It's 100%. Meant to be.
100%. And I think that's such a common theme with people we speak to on this show. It's like things just seem to align. Things don't work out. Like you're trying to do this thing and it doesn't work out, and it's like, oh, I'm going home, or you want something. These things happen, and it seems like it's predestined. So
perfect fit.
Yeah, 100%. So okay, so you've made a decision to go abroad now, and what did that preparation look like for you?
Okay, so in hindsight, I'd have done things differently. Okay. But I felt like because I was moving somewhere, I didn't have any family in the area. I was going to Rochester, New York. I wanted to bring everything with me. I packed clothes that I probably wouldn't have needed, like crop tops, and I was going to
Rochester.
Up north, New York. Yeah. I brought that. I packed an iron. No, I bought an iron and ironing board. I packed food. I smuggled so much food into the country.
Fair. I mean, you're Jamaican. I feel like we're known for that. Like, we can't get over it. Like,
my parents, like in between like summer breaks, my parents would pack me up. We had manish water, we had peas soup.
Soup?
Listen, I don't look it, but I love to eat.
I've never heard someone packing soup.
And then we labeled everything.
Yeah,
so 100%. Funny story. We had goated soup, and then they stopped me at immigration because the bag is big. So they searched it, and they saw this bag, and they're looking, and they're like, goated? And he goes, is it real? And I said, yeah. You seem taking time. Put it back in the bag. He sent me on my way. He's like, I'm not going to dig any further.
I feel like customs officers in the US should, and UK, like they could write books about the things in the Caribbean. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's crazy.
Preparation for school.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Food aside, I brought some books. There was the process of like applying for the visa, and buying the ticket. I think everything kind of was. We went through Versan.
Okay.
So they gave us like this is the checklist of what we need to look through and do. So there's that. It was so long ago. I can't remember all the details.
No, that's fine.
But we went through and we got, because the visa, the application process again is, I'm already going to a school, they can vouch for where I'm going and what I'll be doing, and there's someone who can account for me. It was a quick process. Once you paid everything, the visa came like a week later, and I was on a plane a week after that. Yeah.
Okay, so this is actually not the first time Versan has come up for us, and Versan is a college prep institution, if you will, run by Miss Sandra Bramwell, who is an amazing woman who has helped, like, at this point maybe thousands of people, honestly, with her resources and information and matching students to colleges in specifically what they want to do, helping them to find funding and all of that. So Miss Bramwell, wherever you are the GOAT, okay? Greatest of all time. All right, so you are now, okay, so you did all the prep. Was it hard to leave your parents? You're an only child.
Okay, so...
Or was it harder for them?
You know, I feel like we figured it out. I think it was difficult for both of us, both parties, both parts of us. Yeah. But we were putting on brave faces for each other.
Aww.
So my parents, like I found out recently that my dad, both my parents took me to kindergarten. Both my parents took me when I went to Andrews. But my mom, she couldn't get her visa sorted out, so she couldn't carry me to school when I started. So my dad, he was like, you see how we carry her to kindergarten, we carry her to high school, and we can't carry her to university together. But then my university, they had we call it a family week. So my mom, she figured herself out, and they came and visited me then. But my dad took me, and we found fox, pack rats. We found the what do you call it, the itinerary recently. We're cleaning up garbage, and we found the itinerary. We're sentimental.
I think a lot of people are Caribbean people. It sometimes comes out as hoarding, but that's fine. That's a conversation for another time. Yeah, but it's coming from a real sentimental place, and so, but that's such a nice memory to have. You know what I mean? So he took you. Had you guys gone to the US before?
Yeah, so we traveled before, but we've never gone to Rochester, New York. Yeah, but my dad likes to drive, so he'll rent a car and he'll drive us all over, and he just adjusts to driving on the left side of the road naturally. I don't know how he does it, but big up yourself, Daddy.
Daddy, you're the best.
So we're driving around, going to Walmart, buying all the supplies I need to get, getting books and everything. And then for orientation, we had the parent and the student meeting, and they told the parents that at the end, just go. Don't linger, don't dally, just go. I don't know if we learned that at Versan or if we learned it at orientation. Whatever it was, my dad said bye, and he went, and I went, and I hadn't seen him again until October when they came for family week. Yeah, and then it was rough the first few weeks. I was like, Alexia, what did you do?
Was it rough because Rochester, New York? Was it rough because probably predominantly white? Was it rough because not a lot of community yet? Like, why was it rough, you think?
All of the above. Only child, lived with my parents my whole life, lived in Jamaica my whole life, with black people my whole life, and then everything is just gone. Yeah. It's like you're in a whole other country. You're not hearing the familiarity of your accent. They're playing Sweet Caroline and not playing But then you start off going like, what is this? And then by the time you graduate, you're going, you're fully converted. Right. But it was like a shell shock. I think I adapted pretty quickly. I started working like a week later, and then as soon as my free time got filled with things to do, it was just like, I don't even have time to be homesick.
So be sad.
Yeah. So it worked out. I adjusted pretty quickly. I made friends everybody wants to be friends with a Jamaican. So it was like, you're from Jamaica, I went to Jamaica, I want to go to Jamaica. Right. So you make friends, you adjust, it's sweet, and then you're in school all the time. So there's no time to worry about anything or anybody.
Fair.
And then this was before WhatsApp allowed calls. So my parents had a magic jack, and they would call me on the magic jack, and it would cut off every 30 minutes. Yeah. We were talking for 30 minutes, it cut off, and then they'd call back.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love when families are that close. Like, even when there's like a time limit, it's like, no, we're still not done.
And I couldn't tell you what one conversation was
about. You just keep talking.
Yeah,
you have to feel when you have to feel them in.
Listen,
everybody's talking over everybody.
And then we'd have family get-togethers, and they'd call me during the get-togethers, pass the phone around, so I felt like I was there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't home, but I was included in everything, and my friends were telling me about the parties that they were going to and the activities. Reggae, I love reggae music.
Yeah.
And then every February, reggae concerts were on a Wednesday, and my best friend would go, and she would send me videos. She'd call me live. I was there. You couldn't tell me I wasn't there. Yeah, man.
That's awesome. So you mentioned your best friend, and I assume she was in Jamaica at that time, maybe for the duration of that time. What was it like navigating friendships as you were away, like in a different space, and also developing as a person? Like you left at maybe 18?
17.
17.
Yeah, I think I turned 18. Oh, my first birthday away from home.
Yeah.
It's tragic, it's stressful.
Okay.
But again, I feel like it was almost like I didn't leave, because we were always in the WhatsApp group chatting. We were always talking on WhatsApp. I get my good morning. It's like we were in a relationship. I get a good morning text. I tell her about my school.
We're in a relationship.
Listen!
It's a romantic one, but it is a relationship. Yeah.
I tell her about my classes, and she told me about work. And then we'd have a countdown of when I'd be coming home. She told me about the event she was going to. And then I would come home every summer. So we just pick up where we left off. We'd go on adventures, and we'd cry when I was leaving, and then I'd leave, and then I'd come back in December. So it really and truly just felt like I was home in a different country.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that it was able. Sometimes for some people it's really hard to navigate that, but for you it seemed like it was pretty
seamless.
No, and I love that.
It kept me saying, listen.
No, it's super important, because you didn't even, I'm sure you made friends there, but you didn't feel like, man, if I never talk to anyone, I'm alone. Like you were always talking to.
There was always somebody.
Yeah.
And so I was an RA when my junior year, senior year, and like we'd have to do duty. We'd have a walkie-talkie and everything. Like I was, it's like security.
So an RA is a resident assistant, is what it's called. So they usually live on the dorms or the residence halls, and they usually assist students and do things that help to keep the order of the hall, in a sense. And usually for doing that, they either get subsidized accommodation or free accommodation.
So I got full room and board, and I got a partial meal plan.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, it was a sweet deal. And then it cut a huge chunk out of tuition too. So it was
I feel like housing is, I mean, tuition is expensive, but housing is like a whole beast.
Listen.
And it's nice when you live on campus too, because you can just like roll out and just like
class was at 8, I'd roll out of bed at 7, shower, eat, class.
Right.
Perfect setup for me. And then my college had tunnels,
heated
tunnels, so I could walk underground. I could wear flip-flops in the winter.
I didn't know that was a thing. I mean, people, the kids over there, they do it anyway, even when it's snowing.
That's madness.
But I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. Nazareth College.
I did not know that was a thing. Big up Nazareth. Your infrastructure sounds amazing.
Yes. Flip-flops in the winter. But I was talking about being an RA.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, squirrel. So I was an RA, and we had to do duty, and we'd walk on campus. We'd patrol our residence hall. We'd go around. If there were students who were having difficulties, we'd talk to them and that sort of thing. But while I was on duty, if it was like a weekend duty, it was until 12. That's all? Might have been till 12 or 2. I feel like it was 12. My parents would be on the phone
with you.
Yeah, so they'd check in on me, and then when
I signed the shift yet?
Yeah.
You're walking home. I imagine that.
When I signed off, I'd message them and say, okay, I'm back in my room. I'm going to bed now, and then they would go to sleep at that point. So listen, mommy and daddy,
you guys,
my real MVPs.
You guys are amazing. You brought her through.
Listen.
So, all right. So you had all of that support going through undergrad. I know you're getting to the end. Tell us what the decision process is like. I'm sure you had options, right? You could have done business. You could have done, like, were you still on the path of, I want to be a speech pathologist? So even though I started kind of accidentally and I kind of bumbled my way through it, with each course I took, I found that I liked it more and more. I was like,
nice, because it's checking that, because medicine, I like the science aspect is checking that box, because I can work with patients who have had a stroke or who have had like laryngeal cancer, so it's checking that box. I at some point wanted to work with children, it was checking that box, and I knew I liked languages, and I'm teaching people how to use language, so it checked that box as well. And then I had to do clinic as a practicum placement in undergrad, and struggled. Almost didn't pass. I ended up getting an A, so maybe I wasn't almost failing, but it was a struggle.
Whoa. She said she struggled and it wasn't, but then she ended up getting an A.
Listen,
you know what? I'm over you.
I am over her. I'm a perfectionist.
No, I mean, we can't see that, but it's the fact I'm expecting you to say, oh, we got like a B.
Oh, no.
Homegirl said we ended up getting an A. I'm over you, Alexia.
So I graduated with a 3.9 GPA and a VEX every day.
Because you was the point 1.
It wasn't a point 4. A 4.0. Yeah, VEX.
You know what? Not her being summa cum laude and still being like, oh, I almost had a 4.0.
Listen, I was so close. 3.94
Oh
VEX.
my goodness.
VEX.
Well, you know what? Let's high five for that. Let's high five for that.
For the missed opportunity.
I take it back. Oh my gosh. So, all right. So clearly, you're doing not just well, but you're doing incredibly well. And you know for sure this is what you want to do.
Yes.
So what's next? Like, you have to decide if you're going to graduate school, or did you know for sure you're going?
So I knew I didn't. So in New York State, when you finish your undergraduate placement, if you do a teaching certification, you can start teaching automatically.
Okay.
I didn't want to teach in schools. So I opted to do the GRE. And something about the pricing for the GRE, it was $202. And the $2 rubbed me the wrong way. And I said, I'm not doing this more than once. Right. So I have to pass it, and I have to pass it well the first time. So I was studying, I downloaded all the apps to learn the vocabulary. And I went through and I did it, and I had a score. I can't remember what it was. And I was thinking, okay, this is an okay score. And then when I'm in college now, I'm realizing it was a really good score. To the point where when I finished doing the GRE, the college that I went to, they emailed me and they said, apply to our program. Oh. I think it was like a generic, you get it's X point, whatever. But they emailed me, they wanted me. So I applied there. I applied to a couple of other schools. I didn't want to go there because I thought, if you guys begging people to come, maybe you're not. Maybe
or maybe you just wanted exceptional people. But maybe.
In my mind, it was like you're trying too hard.
What's the word?
Too eager.
You're too eager. What's the word when you're? It's bothering me. You're thirsty.
Yeah, you're thirsty. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Like, something wrong with you. Can't be it.
Okay.
So I ended up applying some other schools, and then again, University of North Carolina, Greensboro gave me the biggest funding. They gave me a graduate assistantship, which gave as a stipend. Whatever it was, it cut a chunk out of the school fee. And I was like, yes, this is where we're going. And then I found out that they were number 21 in the US, which was more than all the other schools I applied to. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I guess destiny is leading me where I'm supposed to go once more. So I did that, came back home in the summer, recharged my batteries, and then back to grad school. 2017. Yeah. 2017. Yeah. And then I was a 2-year program, and that I don't think anything. Okay.
Pause.
Let's
roll back. All right. So you are exceptional. You do well on your GREs.
So that's again.
You are exceptional. Positively exceptional. You do well on your GREs, and schools are like, please come, please come, please come. And then you end up getting, did you apply to UNCG before? Or
so I applied after they sent the email.
Got you.
Yeah. So in fact, I went back to Versan. I was like, this is what's happening. And she's like, oh, North Carolina, that's a good school. And even though she said that, I was like, but they're thirsty.
Right.
So I wasn't convinced. But then she encouraged me, apply. So I applied there, and I applied to, I think it was 3 other schools. Because undergraduate, the application fee, I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't too bad. But grad school, the application fee was ridiculous. I said, I'm not doing more than 3 or 4 applications. Somebody's going to have to take me. I applied to Nazareth for their grad program too. I applied to UNCG. two model schools.
You can say them, but it doesn't matter if you don't, because they don't matter anymore.
They don't, because I went to UNCG.
Right?
Yeah, so I went to two other schools. It was between Nazareth and UNCG. Because Nazareth became a home for me.
Yeah.
And then UNCG because they were somewhere warm.
Yeah. Greensboro.
Yeah, Greensboro versus Rochester.
Let's talk about that transition. I lived in Greensboro for 2 years. I went to grad school there. And I was happy to make that connection because it's such a warm, not physically, right? I mean, it gets physically warm, but I mean like the people, it's just a warm place. And I feel like it doesn't get the love that other major cities, even in North Carolina, gets, but it's such a beautiful place. Like, I actually considered living there. Just for the people alone. There's a sense of community. But anyways, that's a transition. You're coming from like north, like part of New York, and now to a place that has, yes, New York has 4 seasons, but let's be real, like it's rough in the winter. So a place that's definitely more temperate. It's like your springs are really nice. It's green. It's very green. Like, what was that like? The transition.
So I have this thing where I change the weather wherever I go. So when I went to Nazareth, that's the year that they had the polar vortex in New York. And then I went to Greensboro, and I'm walking around campus and I'm seeing these cute little signs. And one day I stopped and I looked and it was like tornado warning. Oh my god. And I was like, wait, they have tornadoes? Right?
That's like, crazy.
I don't really check things before I do it. I just test the waters with both feet. Probably should fix that. But it's been working for me great so far.
It's fine.
So we're going to keep at it. Yeah, so yeah. Tornadoes. Yeah. I didn't experience any, but I was traumatized enough. But my cohort was relatively small. I think it was 21 of us, if so much. And they were very friendly, accommodating. They had this thing with food. They always wanted to have this potluck and they carry food. And I'm like, I like people who feed me. So I'd bring my food and they'd bring their food.
What was your go-to to bring to a potluck?
I either did, I did jerk chicken. It was really baked chicken wings with jerk seasoning on it. Or I did curry shrimp. Oh. I think that was the hit.
That curry shrimp? Oh.
Spicy, but Southerners, they like it, right? Compared to New York, where it was bland.
Yeah. I have a question. From a people perspective, did you find that people were more receptive to listening to your accent in North Carolina than in New York, or did you not find that?
You know, I think my view is skewed because I spent a lot of time with speech therapists. Yeah. So they are trained to listen. Yeah. Versus when I was in New York, I was around everybody, different majors. They eventually caught on. I got ragged on a lot because I would say dear for everything, and for them it's dear. And I say, oh look, it said dear, and they're like, what? I'm like, a deer? You mean a deer? That's what I said.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And then fresh. I got the nickname Fresh because like I tasted something and I said it's fresh. And they were like,
what is that?
Like freshly baked? And I was like, no, like it needs sugar or it needs something. And like, we don't say that here. Yeah. That was a big culture shock for me. So then they started calling me Fresh.
Oh, that's not a bad name. As far as nicknames go, that's not a bad name.
It could be worse. Fresh juice.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
I'm lacking sugar.
So sorry, just another curiosity question about being a speech, like in the speech space. I always think about like accents, right? And especially when you go as an immigrant, like you are naturally outed for your accent. Like it's clear. So even in a place like Greensboro, well, you went to UNCG, which is still predominantly white. But I'll give a little anecdote. Like I went to NCANT, which was a historically black university, so most of the students were black. And so we'd all be looking at each other like, oh, but then I'd open my mouth and it was like
you're not one of us.
Right, but it wasn't in a bad way. It wasn't like when I went to a white school and they were like, oh. It was it was like, oh, okay. You know, it was like different, but they were listening. But the question is, what is, like accents? Do you think if we're speaking proper grammar, accents don't matter, or do you actually think that accents make a difference with immigrants, like being understood?
Makes a difference.
Okay.
Because even without being a speech therapist, I remember for my 16th birthday, I went to Los Angeles, and we were at Denny's and we ordered water.
Oh, water.
And WATER, and she's looking at me like I'm speaking French.
Yeah.
Water.
Yeah.
And it was just back
Water
and
is
forth.
hard.
And you're like, oh, water! And I was like,
water is hard, and it's such an essential thing. I get water is a hard one.
Yeah.
In the US for Jamaicans.
So I think across the board, accent makes a difference.
Gotcha.
And it's so strange to me because I can understand your accent just fine. Why is mine so difficult?
I think it's a listening thing.
Yeah, and then especially with context. If I'm at Denny's and I'm ordering something to drink and I say something with a W, go through your list.
Yeah, but sometimes I also wonder if it's because we had a lot of American TV, so we got a lot more exposure as opposed to them. They really don't get much Jamaican.
But also, I think it's the same with people who speak French too.
But they're okay with a British accent.
I don't know.
They're okay with a British accent.
I think the Brits get a rag too. They get asked questions,
but they don't get asked to repeat things like that.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Questions.
All right, cool. So sorry, let's bring it back. So okay, you're in this master's program, and what was the name of the master's? Like, what was the program?
It's Speech Language Pathology.